Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North East Lincolnshire series, centred around Grimsby and Cleethorpes along the Humber Estuary. North East Lincolnshire has 21 civil parishes. Here's today's for you. Welcome back to North East Lincolnshire, folks. Now here's a rare sight for Lincolnshire, a thatched cottage. How many times do we see that in Lincolnshire? Not very many. That's how many. Well, there's one here and it's one of this place's listed buildings. There's a couple actually that are listed in this place, despite the fact it's actually really small. This is East Ravendale. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. So, in stark contrast to its western neighbour, East Ravendale is more of an actual village. This is located 6 miles away from Grimsby, just off the A18 in the Ravendale Valley. Again though, it's another tiny place on the edge of the Lincolnshire Wolds. It has a church, a school, and the mightily impressive Ravendale Hall, which is now a care home. The village is defined by a single residential street, the Avenue, most of which is a private road running between the A18 and a thatched cottage close to the church. Once upon a time, East Ravendale and West Ravendale were considered one place. Simply known as just Ravendale, it appears in the Domesday Book as Ravenedal, which is Old Scandinavian. There's no mystery around the name either. This is literally the Valley of the Ravens. Many records refer to this place as Randall, a shortened form. It was the seat of the Thorold and the Parkinson families from the early 18th century until 1988. There can be no two ways about this, East Ravendale was a tough one to walk around. There are footpaths and bridleways, but boy, you have to be prepared to cross some undesirable terrain, which can be especially fun following heavy rainfall or even snow, which we had in the week prior to this one being filmed. So, with my boots on, I set off around one of the quietest villages in North East Lincolnshire. Come with me and check it out. Our route begins on the Avenue, East Ravendale's main street. Most of the village is laid out along this one road. The village has about 20 houses, including the 17th century thatched cottages, formerly known as College Farmhouse. This type of cottage is rare in Lincolnshire, but isn't it absolutely gorgeous? Not far away is the Church of St Martin, which was built in 1857 on the site of a much older building. It was designed by the architect James Fowler of Louth. Part of the Waltham group of churches, St Martin's has an active congregation, despite the fact the village is quite small. Several families have been supporting this church for generations. As it always has, it remains today the focal point of the village, and the local community tend the grounds and gather in the building for social events and celebrations throughout the year. It's almost then used in the same way as a village hall would be. As far as services go, it holds one every month. Now, one thing that definitely surprised me about East Ravendale when I was researching this one is the fact that it has a school. It's tiny. You know, why would there be a school for just a handful of children? Well, here it is. There's the school. I'm not joking you. Right next to the church, it's also a listed building. Let's talk about this next. East Ravendale School was also designed by Fowler. It was built in 1856 originally as a national school which could hold up to 70 children. It's now a member of the Lincoln Anglican Academies Trust. A church school, children here are taught in small classes and it runs a toddler group called Twinkles. Outside we have a parish notice board. There was no chance of leaving a card anywhere in West Ravendale, so I made sure East Ravendale definitely got one. There's 9 left now here, folks. There's no shop or post office in the village, but there is a post box outside the school. This one's notable too, because it's Victorian. With the exception of Ravendale Hall, the school and the church are the only amenities the village really has. The rest of the avenue is just housing. Although, having said that, local business is apparently thriving. There is one house here which does sell something, as I was about to find out. So at this house called Beechwood, you can normally call in and get some Ravendale honey. However, at the moment, you can't because, as you can see from the sign, they are currently sold out. Now we're on the B1203, which is the main road through the village from the A18. Here's the phone box, but I'm afraid this one's empty. On the crossroads at the end of the avenue is a wooded area. That's Sandpit Plantation according to OS Maps. There's not a lot out there about this, but I imagine this was once a quarry. That would make sense given the proximity of Ravendale Chalk Quarry, which is less than half a mile away. Heading south along the B1203 we come to a sweeping bend, on which is the old coach house. This dates back to the 1860s and was once part of the extensive grounds and outbuildings associated with Ravendale Hall. It's surrounded by parkland and there's even a duck pond within its grounds. That must mean we're approaching the hall, and we are. As you can see here, Ravendale Hall is now used as a retirement home. Let's go and have a look at it. So I'm hoping here to get a good look at Ravendale Hall. It's hiding away behind the trees over there at the moment, so we'll amble that way and see what we can see. And then we're going to follow this road all the way back to the start. Now I think this is actually a private road, but only for vehicles. I think I actually am allowed to walk down it. It's a bit tough because I'm going to anyway. A Grade 2 listed building, the impressive Ravendale Hall dates back to the early 18th century. It was built for the 9th Baronet Thorold. You might recall that name from the Swallow episode in West Lindsey. It was an occupied residence until 1988, having been lived in by both the Thorold family and the Parkinson family in its time. It's now a retirement home, which can cater for up to 34 people across some 22 single rooms and 6 shared. It's the grand old house of the village. Now, as it turns out, the road leading to the hall is a dead end, so I couldn't follow it anyway. Plan B was this public bridleway just to the south of the hall. It's not an easy path to follow because it runs through a riding school. I believe this is College Farm, which has a fully equipped indoor arena. Behind the farm is Strawson Woodland, who grow and sell Christmas trees. One of their plantations is at nearby Barnolby-le-Bec. Now for a muddy field. Well, I'm so pleased I've got my boots on here because I've now got to cross this field and it's very muddy. When I get to the end of the field, I need to turn left, and then that will take us back down to the thatched cottage, the thatched house, where we began. It's been quite a trek, this one, for such a small place, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. And as if by magic, we're back to where we began. Quite a long trek that, 50 minutes nearly it took me to walk around East Ravendale. I didn't plan for it to take me that long, but then again, I didn't know the nature of the footpath across the field, and it was quite hard going. It's a good job I've got these boots on. Like I said, trainers would just not have cut it. You need to be prepared when you come to a place like this. Anyway, that's been the parish of East Ravendale, and that's both the Ravendales done. Time for me to move on to the next one here in North East Lincolnshire. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the parish of East Ravendale, and I'm out.